Hey everyone, I'm Tassinix. Welcome to Plotting and Scheming. We are in the in-between time preparing for Season 55, 5 versus 5 Grand Arena Championship. I am joined by Dagger, TJ, and Sasha Isha, my typical weekly co-hosts here. We have a special guest once more. Real pleasure to have him, one of the finest theory crafting minds in the game for kind of all modes of content. Welcome, Fatal. How are you?
How do you say? How's it going? Happy New Year. Thanks for having me on.
It's a delight to have you. Yeah, and sorry just to, put the cigarette right out in your eyeballs, guys. How are you doing, TJ and Sasha? I know Dagger's a few minutes away from getting in, but he'll be here.
Oh, doing great. We've got news dropping in the game, so it feels pretty vibrant. We'll touch on that in just a moment. And psyched to have Fatal here.
And thanks for having me. Feeling like shit because I need to relic my heat cough. But how are you?
It will be asked of you. So yeah, let's go ahead and face the music. Guys, I had a well written up agenda just going into this, and minutes before we were planning to start recording, they have this announcement, new update on the Battle for Naboo raid. So the long and short of it is you're gonna have these characters specifically get a buff: Jar Jar Binks, Master Qui-Gon, Padawan Obi-Wan, Darth Maul, and Stap. There are faction bonuses for Gungans, Galactic Republic, and Separatist. Let's see, it's counting Sidious. Really? Huh, that's kind of interesting. And then there's this long list of allowed characters, which is kind of cool. I guess you kind of have some flexibility when you see, oh, I could make use of Jedi Consular. Your disused Jedi and stuff like that. And then when you realize at the bottom of all this, the new top tier of the raid requires level 9, relic level 9. So take it away, guys. What do you think about the update overall?
I'm just going to call out and openly say new Fatal videos win. We're out of the speeder bike, so that means the min-max thing is going to be here and how we make the most of it. And I will say, all the way up until the end, I was pulling up some YouTube videos to make sure stuff went in. So I'm not going to plug Fatal in the other way. I'll let him do his talking, but those Fatal min-max win.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, no commitments needed, Fatal, but just a lot of pleading on our behalf.
That's right.
No, I fucking want to, man. It's not a cop out, but the answer is when I have access to ADHD medication, I make videos.
Fair.
I do not have access to ADHD medication, and many videos have died halfway done.
It's the new setup. We're not getting past his hat. We're getting Fatal his medication. So let's get on that now, everybody. We need
if anyone can call up my insurance company and argue that it's medically necessary, that would be awesome. I'm kind of tired of.
We will summon.
I actually work in insurance. This is good.
How have you not rallied your fan base to this cause?
Yes.
It is a noble cause. People have blown up corporate phone lines for far less.
No, I want to. I really, really want to. I'm hoping I can get over the hump and get something out. There's plenty of topics I want to be talking about right now, but as always, no promises. But yeah, it's kind of on the forefront of my mind right now. I'm hungry. I'm itching. And hopefully this will be a raid where, hey, the mechanics might actually play the way we normally play the game.
We'll see. I kind of like some of the characters that we'll get to have a use of. Yeah, I actually like that there's Sidious. I really didn't expect that.
Realized?
What's that?
Queen Amidala is not a hero character, but Stap is.
Yeah.
Everybody else.
No, Queen Amidala was listed though.
She's not, but not as a hero character.
She's not a hero.
She's an allowed.
She's allowed. She's not getting.
Yeah. I see what you're meaning. She isn't specifically getting buffed, called out here.
John Marquis with with Raid Omicron is a hero. Generic named unit on vehicle. But Queen Amidala. Everyone else is a named person, and then you have man.
She's just a costume, Fatal. You just take it, all right? We have other things. We have Newt. Sidious gets to play the game, and he gets his stuff altered. Queen Amidala, she's just in the background.
We need a remaster of the Phantom Menace where the 3 points of view of the Battle of Naboo are the Jedi fighting, and then the space battle, and then we just follow one step around on the field as he's like doing strays and stuff. That's my real hero.
You want that mashup with that 1v1 that kept getting juggled around at the Battle of Geonosis.
They just make it really gritty, just like a huge total swing makes 0 sense.
Fantastic.
I'll salute for him. That's my hero.
I'm reading this raid stuff just in real time.
Yeah.
We this really just dropped as we began recording. And I'll tell you, my first reaction is, and it's a skewed one, it's not totally on point. I don't mean to derail, but that R9 requirement makes me think R10. Like, that's when floodgates open. And this does make me think, like, if they're going... R9 is still a really restrictive hurdle. And I kind of feel like this is likely to be tied to at least those floodgates being, if not fully opened, loosened.
All I'm going to call out, and I think it'll be a point of reference for us at the tippy top and everything else, is what does the materials look like you get for that next box? Calling out the new crate, and that the pitchforks will be raised and everything else, because this, to me, the way I'm reading it, right, they're doing droid hordes, and that's what we're going to fight. So the randomness is from the, what is it, the step sergeant or whatever it's going to be, the droid. So I said, that's where I think the fatal min-maxing is going to come into play. It's reminiscent of what we'll be seeing. We're not on a speeder bike. We're not going to get people who are going to get motion sickness. It's not, 5-minute raid. It looks like there's a way to actually min-max this raid and what it's going to do regardless of the randomness. So I'm interested to see how it's going to come out, but I want to see what the rewards are going to be. If they're giving a new crate, is it really worth the effort that we're going to put in? Because I'm looking at some of the characters, and I will call out, we already know that the Gungans will get their raid on me, right? But they're doing Queen Amidala doing that. Are they going to give one? Because I called out Keith Foss being a jackass about it, but is that the one that's going to be for Queen Amidala, right? And it gives you if you really want to get the min-max, the most min-max, because the level 7 is giving a faction bonus for Galactic Republic. Is that the one where it's like, well, if you get your Relic 90th cost, it's going to have a raid on me that's going to really put the team over the edge, just like the Gungans.
Fair. I mean,
do think that we're only going to see a stab as a raid Omicron. I feel like CG has a 1 per policy right now.
Okay.
Oh, that's fair.
Okay.
We'll see.
Yeah, there's a lot to digest here because it does give details on the mechanic upgrades going each level up. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty clear path forward for who's allowed and how high you'll have to take them. So, yay! All right, guys, we have a decent agenda to move through. So first, let's focus a little bit about our guest. I already mentioned that Fatal's one of the finest theory crafters in the game, but he's also one of the strongest competitors historically. Part of our interview will focus on the ups and downs of fighting the way that Fatal likes to fight. We've got a good handful of questions to dig right into. So, first one for you, Fatal, and the rest of you guys feel free to take the next question from me and ask, because I know you like doing that. But yeah, have there been times you have considered doing what you must to climb back to the top, or are you enjoying JAC the way you play it enough to not care?
So the answer is kind of just dependent on the lay of the land. Like, I mean, I'm a very competitive person, but part of why the last 4 months or however long it's been went the way it went is because, as competitive as I like to be, I kind of know myself enough to know that, like, novelty and, like, creativity, if it's not there, then I'm just going to lose interest in the game and I'm going to burn out, and it's like T-minus 2 months until I'm going to end up, like, quitting.
Oof, yeah.
And so the direction that I went the last few months and, like, ended up tanking rank, sure, but part of that was kind of just a defense mechanism of, like, hey, yeah, this meta is kind of ass. And so,
yeah,
I mean, looking back on it now, it's like, so what did I do during that time? I mean, a lot of the fights were duds, but, like, that shit kicked me onto, like, Zori versus Rey.
Fair.
That's just canon now. That shit just works. I mean, there's
true.
There's a Kron that lets them cheat now. It's kind of, a little bit messed up, but That's not going to be around forever.
But you bucked the system, so I'm gonna give your flowers where it's deserved, right? So I watched theirs, and it's like I don't give a shit what you're gonna do. Everybody knows it was the layer of precision and all this shit like that. It's like, no, I'm still gonna play the game my way. And so the fact that you do it regardless of win or loss, especially for all of us here equally being sweaty, and you saying fuck it, it's gonna be my way or the highway, and if it's the highway, then so be it. I'll take my dip, and then we'll call it what it is. So I'm just gonna give it out that something I would love to do, but I know I can't. Even when I tried, it just ended up horribly, or I didn't get to learn anything from it. So I think it's a good point of reference.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It definitely can end up in those spots where you just end up with a dud, and like, I do wish that it was more common in this game that we as a community were down to just like chat with each other. Like, I don't know if you guys, but for me, it's like half the time that I reach out with a DM, it just gets declined. It's like, well, okay.
Oh, you're saying people don't answer you, get back to you.
Yeah. I like, because even like win or lose, I'm always down to chat game. In fact, I like almost want to do it more when I lose.
Why? Yeah,
and so it's like, well, all right, I guess they just don't want to talk. I think a lot of people just tend to assume it's going to be shit talk when they open up the inbox and you see the message they already sent.
Oh yeah.
But
you would be crazy not to expect that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hold it against them, but it's just like we could just break that trend. I mean, you know, we've got GAC history now. I know that I can wait until the end of the week, but dude, the number of times where it's like you try something and it just gets wiped for like a 65, and then like it happens again in match 2.
Exactly.
Like,
having that happen in match 1 is when you need that communication the most.
Yes.
Totally.
Well, you could take all of the learning, I think, right? And it goes to a point, and I'll ask this because it was a good point that Dagger brought up, and I think it's true. So the question, the difference between how you and Tass approach streaming GAC, right? We all know there's the fatal way is you basically come in like 45 minutes and everybody, even in threes, how the hell you do that is beyond me, man. So to what extent is your last minute assault approach a product of strategy? Is it scheduling, convenience, and or personal enjoyment preference that you just go in and do this last minute?
And by the way, before we push on, guys, is everybody hearing TJ a little soft? Like, does he sound a little far off, or is that just my ear?
It would be nice for him to go into the same room as his mic.
Okay, so he does sound a little far off. Okay, it's not just me.
That's me? All right, so then I'll have to hold on. We'll take it off and I'll go back in. But either way, how do you, when you do your GAC, Fatal, and you do everything like last minute, right? Tass will come in, he'll do his earlier, and then we have the time to strategize. You just go in and just bombard it like last minute, and everybody will think. And I've even watched your streams in the comments. You'll go out and tell them it's like there's no way you're gonna make it in time, and here you are with 15 minutes left on a 30-minute fight or something like that. So is that for you a good approach, or is that just preference, or is it actually a strategy?
There's actually a few reasons. So back when I started streaming, I would actually say I was probably most similar to Tass and how he currently streams. When, you know, you read the comments, you read discussions in servers, and like the thing that I saw pretty often is people say like, holy fuck, this dude takes forever. And, you know, I do think that there's something to be said for like, there's nothing wrong with taking your time, and like that serves a specific type of audience, but like I already kind of do it in the back of my head as like, yeah, there is a lot of just like dead air where I'm just sitting there thinking and nothing is actually happening on screen. So even like from back when I first started streaming, I did make a concerted effort of like, okay, you need to figure out ways to speed things up. You need to start using like a matchup planner so that you can like get over that whole process of like, using a matchup planner is actually just kind of broken, right? I think we can, for those of us here who do that, you can kind of agree that like going from trying to juggle 25, 30 teams in your head and like assign them versus like, no, I just got a spreadsheet. I just drag them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you use like the Swugga for Life tool, or what do you use? Because I actually still use like an actual spreadsheet, like unironically.
Dude, I literally just have a Excel sheet that is empty. There is zero formatting. That is a white ass background with black fonts. and I write in 15 names, and then I cut and paste them in front of who they're supposed to fight. That is zero form, all function. But I kind of wanted, like, I've thought in the past, like, man, it would be kind of neat if I, like, did some sort of, like, busy work to kind of dress this up. And it's like, no, dude, if I'm matchup planning, I want the dirtiest, fastest, just like, no, we're slamming names, we're dragging this here. Get in the damn battle. That, like,
Yeah, you're saying you'd have to generate all the team comp ideas for each round anyway, or like at least each week. Yeah.
Yeah, I want that to be like quick and dirty, in and out. It's not pretty, you know. It feels weird when I recommend it to people. Like, yeah, just open up a spreadsheet and make a list. But like, I don't know. I usually appreciate a fusion of form and function, and like want to make it look at least a little bit nice. But we're doing dirt. Like, I just needed to get his job done.
That's right. This is what I tell that, like, I understand where you're coming from, and I cop too. Like, it might not be the most riveting viewing, seeing me there, like, stew it out on stream, like you were saying. But, like this is what I tell people. This is how the sausage is made. Like, I don't apologize for that. So.
You play the fuck, yeah, no, like, and I even say this too. Like, if I'm finding people who, like, if they cheese, it's like, I'll bitch and moan and gripe on stream, but like, play the fucking win. You have nothing to be sorry for. I'm the one being a crybaby bitch over here. Like, it's fine. do what you feel you gotta do.
Yeah.
So just calling out to make sure we can hear me. Tash, you're a crybaby bitch.
Yes, and you're coming across beautifully.
Perfect.
TJ.
So that was clear.
Yes,
crybaby
just
bitch.
beautifully.
Fatal, you can just call Taz a crybaby bitch. We do it all the time behind the scenes for the plotting and the scheming. That's how we walk into the thing. Your hat is dumb. Your hat is dumb, and you are a crybaby bitch. So it's fine to call out the man, the myth.
I mean, look, man. I caught myself lately as like. I would start to tilt the moment that I saw a cheese defense, and it's like, okay, pause, rewind. What the fuck? That's not a healthy response.
The amount of commiserating our group has done over the one GL on defense is, we get it. We get it.
Very fair. All right, who's asking Fatal the next one?
Well, before we move off that though, because I do think it's so fascinating, and having personally experienced and still bearing the scars of playing, like trying to play real time with Fatal on that approach. It's so interesting to say, like, you started with the more sort of deliberate approach, and you really, like, in part for, like, viewer entertainment, responding to comments, that you really tightened it up. I find it fascinating. It's so hard. I just say, as somebody who's played real-time matches with you, and they're some of, like, the funnest time that I've had in this game. Also some of the most miserable, but certainly some of the funnest, is that the stress and frankly just the difference in experience and sort of the challenge of trying to play competitive GAC at that pace. Like, I feel like it's interesting. Like, my observation watching a ton of your stuff over the years, Fatal, is that like it's a little like, sometimes people will just say, hey, do you want to go, like, we'll play all defense and everybody's going to get in the mud, and one person perhaps is more comfortable than the other with something that's just going to be a brutal slog. It's a whole different thing to do that and do it on a compressed time scale, have that kind of adaptability. It's a huge challenge. Now, it creates this, like, third competitor in the space, and that is the clock, right? Because it's fascinating to see, like, watching a lot of your matches, you may not feel this way, but, like, you are, I'm sure, much more comfortable in that than, like, whatever competitor is trying to go real time. How do you look at the clock and time as a competitive factor in those matches where, hey, they're going to go real time with you?
I'm so fucking glad you asked it this way. All right, can I, like, get weirdly in the weeds for a second here?
You absolutely can. That is literally what people watch this show for. Is the weeds of the top end, like, play.
So I mentioned in my original answer that there were, like, multifaceted reasons, and the one that I gave is kind of the main one, but it didn't get to this degree until the other factors kind of drove in. So the other main factor, and honestly the thing that actually, like, triggered, because I used to attack at the start of rounds, and the thing, yes,
I don't think I ever remember that. I'm trying to go back in my head when it's gone. I don't remember ever.
This is back towards the era before GAC got reworked, and we had like a loose ladder of ranking.
Yeah, you're min-maxing. You're talking about light GP and going in, and your GAC characters were top notch, and you're okay. That tracks.
That was the thing. I know I'm not like the underdog GP. I mean, I guess I'm still like less GP, but like I don't really consider myself to be an underdog from just like the way accounts are balanced these days. But like coming into the game, the only reason why I min-max is because I wanted to fight people, endgame players, and I was so fucking tilted at the matchmaking being like, okay, today you're gonna fight somebody who has like 25% of your GLs and 30% of your Zeta count, and it's like, what is this system in? So yeah, when GAC got reworked, that was like everything I wanted in terms of like, okay, we can actually like do some dirt. But the thing that happened is when GAC got reworked and like the period leading up to and after that is it became pretty quickly clear that people cheat. And it was disappointing for me, but like again, I try to take people like their word or like their intent versus their actions. And it was pretty clear that it was just like a cultural difference of like people would check your stream and like look at the teams that were on back wall and stuff like that. And like it wasn't even like, oh, I would find out from someone else after the fact. They were just openly saying it to me. Like in their mind, it wasn't stream sniping or stream shading or whatever. It was just part of the game for them.
Yeah,
and so
they didn't ask you to put it out there, so why the hell not in their mind?
Yeah, and so it was kind of just this response. It's like, holy shit, like cheating is rampant. And so that is what kicked off the ball rolling down the hill of this sort of style at this point is, okay, if they're going to wait until I start attacking because they want to see what I posted, then A, I'm moving it to the end of the round just to try to protect against, as many schedules as possible that like, or ideally at least that we would go at the same time. But then B, if you really, really, really want to know what's back wall, then okay, the clock is going to become a factor here, because if the clock runs down low enough, the original thought was, as you said, it becomes a third player in the match. And if the clock runs down low enough, it doesn't matter that you know what's back wall, because we're not going to clear back wall anyway. We're not going to have time to do it. And so at that point, it kind of trivializes the advantage and we can play on neutral grounds.
I like this stuff. That makes so much sense on your, I'm going to call it in air quotes, you can't see me, the fatal defense of why it is what it is. And so top brick heavy, because when you look at it, and I know anybody's going into knowing you're basically setting the board, and whoever's going to come up with the better off meta, we'll call it, off meta for what it is. It also tracks because then now you get to play not only the time, but the tough defense as well, and how you play that defense and how you work around that system.
Yeah, it has evolved in some really weird ways since then too. Of like, I feel like I post a very honest defense now, where like, I mean, I tend to like think of an angle at the start of week 1, and then I kind of just run that defense for the entire season, and it involves pretty much 0 baits at this point. Like, it's pretty front loaded, and so I like, it feels weird to kind of leave those parts of the game behind, but at the same time, I don't know. There's almost a certain positive aspect to it where you can kind of feel out a player more if you're basing everyone off of the same criteria and experience at that point of like, okay, well, this person did this and this person's like behaving or scoring differently, so maybe that I can like glean some information from that usual predictability.
And that doesn't have to be a strategy that's gone forever to you either. It's like almost sitting on the shelf ripening. Like if you were ever to decide, oh, hey, I am going to swap up. I'm going to, I'm going to hide the ball on an opponent. You can draw on it. You haven't in the longest time, but it's there. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a very interesting strategic back pocket option. And like, honestly, if I do it, it's like the ultimate show of respect in my eyes. It's like, fuck. Okay, we need to explore that avenue and like make use of every part of the animal, because you're so used to telegraphing the same thing for so long that like, all right, we're going all out. I'm gonna try doing a swap or doing some backwall shit and see if you can catch someone out.
That's awesome.
Great question, Sasha. I know that one wasn't even one written down, but boom, banger. Great question.
Oh, I want to say too is like, I'm glad that you said that it was like enjoyable experience. I do think what you say is right, that at this point I've probably practiced this to the point where, like, honestly, if anyone's ever playing with me or playing against me and you want to go at the same time or whatever, it's like, especially if I know you're like, I guess, how much do you really know anyone online? But like, as much as you can know someone, if you don't want to like weigh down the clock, if someone just messaged me and said like, hey, you want to go like 80, 90 minutes before a round done, I'd be like, yeah, okay. Like, it doesn't have to be this like doomsday weighing down the clock. It's like, because I do agree that like at this point I clearly have practiced speed GAC more than anyone else. Like, definitely probably do have an advantage.
It's fascinating. I'll just say, like, from my own experience, because that's not my typical MO. I mean, of late, I've done more of my attacks in a concentrated manner, at least relative to, say, tasks, right? These are the far other end of the spectrum. But, like, having done that real time with you, like, I don't know, half dozen plus times, the evolution, almost just a matter of sort of developing and continuing to build the muscles and some of this, strategical perspective that comes with it. Like, I would say, probably the fourth or fifth time we matched up versus the first was a huge difference in terms of stress level and just I think kind of just comprehension of how to play the game. And that included like evolving strategies of like, hey, I probably need to retain a little more flexibility. I probably because I don't know what's going to be in your back wall, but I know I'm going to be sweating it. It's like, I probably want like a bigger toolkit. And I need to do something that's unique and different for you on the back wall, but I probably can't overextend with it. And with the added element, to be completely honest with it, of like, I know, like, in fatal matchups, like people watch, and I don't want to get hard stopped, right? Like, I don't want to get embarrassed by like, I really stretched on my back wall, and there it is, real time with fatal. I'm going back and forth, and it's like, hey, Sasha put 9 attacks on one of his front wall GLs and hasn't done anything. Right? Like, there's this sort of back of the mind anxiety about that. So it was just really, it was a cool experience. And it was honestly, it was not quite a completely different game, but like a different stimulant in the game. And that was awesome. So anyway, it's great to have that type of mix, as long as it's not burning you, man. That's the thing. Like you said earlier in our conversation here, that sustainability and you finding something that's going to keep you engaged with the game. It's in all of our interest that be the case.
I mean, you said to yourself, I agree with you, it's given me some of the most fun matches I've ever had. Like, there is a beauty to the well-measured Galaxy of Heroes, being able, watching someone be able to like fully understand all the mechanics and then like precisely plan out answers and then execute it, whatever. Like, again, that's why it's like, when I started streaming originally, the tasks I played like you, that's the shit I was doing. But especially if, as a streamer, I have some minor agency over when someone's going to want to play, taking it to a speed GAC. In a perfect world, I would rather see you just introduce a speed GAC mode.
I saw you. I saw that last stream. I was there live when you realized that your opponent had scouted your VOD or whatever. And you said, I will never do this again. I will never do this again. I saw your last earlier stream. I remember it because you were pissed. It was great.
I've always said this. I really feel like Galaxy Heroes exists in a sort of bizarro world bubble. Like, when you really break down all the characteristic aspects of most competitive games in the industry and compare it to Galaxy Heroes, I mean, even just like basic structural stuff, YouTube is the main platform of choice for like content streaming in Galaxy Heroes. It's like, what are you talking? What? Why? And then you get down to like the nitty gritty that extends to like streaming culture. Like, in most other games that I've played, someone stream sniping would be a huge scandal, and that person would be like, I don't know what the word is, but ostracized. That would be a mark on your character that like follows you. And here is just like, yeah, right. Like ultimately
Most of
speaking,
most of the people I'm fighting though, like, or at least most of the people that are willing to communicate with me, if I tell them that I'm a streamer, and if you wouldn't mind, this is when I'm planning on streaming. Do you think you'd be able to clear my front wall before then? Almost all of them say yes. And the ones that say no are usually saying no because of a schedule restriction, and they're straight up about it.
I would think anybody at the top though would want to try to do it.
That's what I'm saying. You would think so. We're
all
all in it for the real competition. You would
right?
think.
I think like getting matched up with the streamers and getting stuff like that. I know for me personally, I'll go out of my way to try to bend over backwards just to make sure that the honor is there.
Yeah.
That I can at least open the wall so you can do your story and we can go back and forth later. But I want to make sure there's no surprises. And I personally, and I call it bias, call it whatever you want, think most will try to do that. I know
I am more inclined to do it for some than for others.
I will say that's true as well. But,
I know
but
who
for the
others
most part,
is.
like if I go right, but I also know, to be fair though, Dagger, you'll talk a lot of shit, but you're also but your schedule is also entirely crazy for anybody who actually knows you. So it's not you'll see it to be a dick, but you would in reality, if you had the time, would give
I mean, imagine like Fatal schedules his GAC at like the end of GAC. I have to find like a 90-minute period where no one will bother me so I can do my GAC.
Yes.
But I'll do the same thing. But that's what I'm saying. I will at least try to open the thing just to give a respect for the person trying to do it. So it's the era of competition, right? And if it's the ability to go live and do a 1-to-1, like either matching at the same time, we're going to attack at the same time, or you go, I go type thing, to me is the most fun. And also, I would agree with Sasha, is the most
I did that once. I did that once with Infinitum way back in the day. Right when he got one. I guess it was that far back. This is when he got the account from like Angel Chess. When he got that big account. And I was able to go fight for fight with him, and that was a ton of fun.
No doubt.
It's some of the coolest experiences of this game to see your defense in action, and it's a damn shame that we don't.
100%.
I think
I love that aspect.
I only want to call out is if you also look at the biggest, most like watched or viewed, and I think we can go back and look at it, or when it was content creator versus content creator, and they were going live, right, and then getting to watch all this stuff happen at the same time, and then you're getting to root for your team or whatever it was like Super Bowl event things where you would see everybody on everywhere, and it was just going nuts because those were some of the biggest things. Fatal, when you were going against Arnold and those things like that, when you were watching Tass and you go back and forth, those to me, and watching it live in real time and seeing what was happening, and then you guys are like playing cards close to the chest, nobody's watching each other's thing, and it was a fair fight, were some of the best experiences I've ever seen that would make me love Star Wars and the GAC.
Fair. Guys, let's move to the. Sorry, no. Go ahead, Fatal. By all means.
No. I was just gonna say, like the Arnold fight and the fact that I was able to line up debuting the original Traya versus Lord Vader counter with the Arnold fight was still like probably peak highlight for me in this game. Of just like the timing of things coming together. I'm like, hey, by the way, I've been cooking some really goofy shit, and also it's a GAC. It was very
fantastic. Yeah, it's a good opportunity to highlight it. For sure.
I can dig back into personal history and share one example where I thought I had something really good, but getting a chance to see what a kind of concocted defense in action, and it was a match with you, Fatal. I don't know if you recall this, but it was. At that point, it was very early to set SLK with Sith Empire, well before Malgus, but it was like DR Mal, kind of other stuff. And it hadn't been set a lot as I'd looked at .gg history, and there were quite a few hard stops with it, and I was super excited to see it in action. So this is great. I'm playing Fatal. I'm going to set this up. And I think I was super excited to see it, and there's probably not been a bigger gap between sort of excitement and expectation and then realized experience when you were sort of setting up, and I could tell you'd obviously set a very hard D. I think I'd gone through a bunch, maybe all your stuff or a good portion of your stuff at that point, and I'm like, I don't know that he can get through this. And then you clicked on Imperial Troopers and Watt, and it was the first time I had seen that, and I'm like, son of a... effing like it was so soul crushing. But that's what this game's about. Like to actually see this like innovative kind of like out of the blue, soul crushing for me, but deeply informative for the community.
Yeah, I mean, and I expect anybody watching this would certainly know who you are at this point. But some of the, the unique moddings that you've come up with on teams for the years have been everlastingly meta-defining. So it's been really cool to be a beneficiary of all that.
The Trey versus Vader will always still remain to me the creme de la creme of it works. It only works for Fatal.
And
he's the only one who said it. When Relic 9 was new, right? When Relic 9 was brand new, and he's putting it on Scion, and this is the moneymaker. It's like, I'm never going to get to do this, but man, it is so cool. I would love to do what he's doing. That shit's not happening. This dude is bananas crazy.
My favorite one is the Malik faster than DR. That one has paid the highest dividends over years in this game.
In 3v3. It just had like a 3-year dynasty for no fucking reason.
It's hideous, man. It's actually still pretty good. It's still pretty good. I have to say. All right, guys, let's move into the next question here. None of you decided to seize up on it, so boo-hoo for you. But yeah, unironically, Fatal, do you worry about high blood pressure or hypertension? Because it's very fair that I'm the one that gets to ask this because, like, I need to have a beer on him when I'm watching you. Like, you see that I feel stressed when I have... Like, I usually plan for 3 hours 100%. To do my Grand Arena on stream, right? Like, if I have less than 2, I am stressed. Watching you start, it's like, great, we have, like, 43 minutes and go. It's like...
Right?
Yeah, I feel like I need to burn a cigarette when I watch you do your gag. For real.
I love the we're not gonna have enough time. It's never gonna be enough time. I just watch everybody just like bombarding you with there's not enough time. And then what's stupid is when when you do get it right, everything goes just right, and you've got like 5 minutes left, and then the aha bitch is just amazing. You don't say it, but just to watch it because they're talking shit to you, and you watch the smirk right as the shit. Those are the best. Those are the best ones where it's like, all right, you guys kept talking shit. All right, I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette because I'm all done now. Haha, bitch.
Well, so you're asking if I'm nervous with the time pressure. Here's the other secret answer is I operate really fucking well under pressure for whatever reason. It is almost kind of made me a better player because I don't have time to second guess my gut. And historically, I tended to second guess my gut a lot when I streamed at the start of a round, and it would, like, every single fucking time it would be like, okay, why did I not trust my gut? And then I would just keep on not trusting my gut regardless. No, I like in the moment when I'm under time pressure, I've kind of just always operated under time pressure, so it's a comfort zone for me. I'm mostly just like, okay, it's usually about 7, maybe 8 minutes for ships, and then there's 25 minutes for remaining fights. So 10 fights, 2.5 minutes per fight. Fucking God bless the PC beta as well.
Yes, thank God for the load times. It's crazy.
I mean, the load times, the play time is just stupid. I mean, so when I first started streaming GAC and had the idea of like wanting to do YouTube edits to like trim it down, the target that I had for like, okay, this would be a good trimmed down version of a GAC match. I wanted it to be trimmed down to like 40 minutes. And now that's just like the runtime for a GAC. I'm close to hitting that.
Yep. It's something to behold because you are pretty routine with being able to get it all done. But it's still nevertheless like I'll see you. It's like there's like 38 minutes when he posted on Discord. What is he talking about? He's not finishing shit. And then you do. All right, who's got the next one? Step on up. Don't be shy. Okay, fine. Be shy. All right. When it comes,
these guys, man.
When it comes to the theory. No. Okay. TJ, take it away.
I can do mine.
Okay, fine. See, fight nice.
See, sorry, I was all right. I was on mute. So, all right, Fiddle. So, when it comes to theory crafting, given the lack of a sandbox mode in this game, what are your go-to approaches to be able to flesh out and assess comps and strategies? Like I know you love to get deep down into the kits, the mechanics, and find interesting combinations. Like, how do you play in the sort of the limited universe of options that this game presents?
Most of what I do, it's a combination of I kind of just try to play out fights mentally, but you really need aids to do shit like that. Of like, I'll usually have SWH.gg up so I can like something that I'll do fairly often is I'll actually just like scroll through the entire game's roster, like skim through it real quick. But like if I have certain mechanical associations for certain characters, or like if you use that filter where you can like sort for a certain mechanic, that can kind of help you filter to whatever you're looking for fairly quickly. Of like, back in the day with the Thrawn lead against Rey thing, that was like probably one of the most organic processes of it. It was literally just like a call and response of like, okay, here's a problem. Okay, well, this is a way to solve it. Okay, well, that creates this. Okay, well, you can add this to solve it. Of like, okay, well, I know I need to fracture Rey. It's like, okay, well, what's happening to the Thrawn? Okay, well, the Resistance Hero bros are going after him, and they're damaging him, and they're debuffing him, and they're killing him. And so I did a roster scroll, and ended up happening on the Thrawn lead itself, where it was like, oh shit, he actually has reactive tools. He gets turn meter when he gets debuffed, pose debuffing him, that's sick. And then problem number 2 is like, okay, well shit, he's still like getting stunned or whatever. Enter Watt, who was already like in the fucking picture for Vader anyway, but right, it was this back and forth of like, well, okay, if Thrawn is tanking AI aggro, you can actually just drop the tank slot and gain a like team theory crafting slot back. And so like when I'm trying to theory craft, really I'm just trying to break a fight down to its barest like questions and answers problem solving. Work through it on that level for like the first, I would say like 5 or 10 turns, or just as much as you need to get a fight rolling. And then you just go test it in arena and see how the rest flows from there and whether or not it's like a winnable, playable scenario. But yeah, like honestly, if it's someone looking to practice it, I think a huge way or a huge amount of help comes from if you can get familiar with the kits enough that you can kind of think through the first few turns of a fight. And like a good way that I would say to go about it is like go into a matchup screen, especially now that you can see the enemy team. And so like you can select your team, you can see the enemy team, and then if you have a loose idea of like, okay, well I know this character's fastest. And so like let's say you're fighting Supreme Leader Kylo. It's like, okay, I know SLK's fastest, he's gonna poke someone. I have a tank, so he's gonna poke the tank. Turn 2, well, Hux is going to be fastest unless I do something, right? Like you can work through that daisy chain. I'm not saying you fucking mentally play an entire fight. I don't know if there are any Galaxy Heroes players that can do that. If they can, like, they would be eligible for
need a
best
higher
of all
calling.
time. Yes. But right, like the further into a fight you can get with that is kind of one of the skill aspects I would say is. That's kind of where you can really effectively start to learn to improv fights, especially if it's for off-meta stuff, and kind of find interesting interactions that let you play. Yeah,
Makes a ton of sense. And I don't do it to the level of depth and creativity that you do, but that is the same kind of like event kind of sequencing I try to map out at a very early stage and just go, hey, am I cooking with something here, or am I way off base? And it's just, it's interesting to hear you go through that. And so much of that then really comes to, like you're saying, you do need to start looking through the various characters, sort of that universe of options. But doing that kind of reasonably really means you've got pretty darn good command of folks, all the various kits out there, the uniques, all these other different aspects. And that's just getting to be a larger and larger data set, sort of. But very cool to hear. Very cool to hear. Who's got the next question?
Should be Dagger, yeah? You've been you're the late arrival. It's the least you could do. Ahem. All right, TJ, come to my rescue, TJ.
Yeah, it's all right. It's great quiet. Dagger's always so responsive and
top
helpful.
tier. Appreciate you. Good show, sir.
And his hat is dumb because I know he wants. Oh wait, he doesn't wear a hat. Never mind. No, his fro is dumb. All right. So anyway, so I think we already asked it, Fatal, but I think I know you are prone to just kind of leaving it as is. Do you actually do? Because I know you'll leave in the beginning of a match, right, or a season when we're coming to GAC. Do you actually do any scouting, or you just say fuck it and leave it, and we're just gonna deal with what it is? Because like I said, we all know the Fatal defense, right? We know what it is. It's basically everything up front, and if you can beat the wall down, and you can take whatever's in the back, because it's all gonna be equally as strong. Do you ever decide that you're going to change something up, or do you just leave it as is, right? Do you actually do the scouting, or do you just leave it, right? How does that work for you?
Yeah. So when GAC first got reworked, I scouted like crazy, and then pretty much within that first season. I mean, that was such a cool season that it kind of created this first tournament structure. That people who usually don't care about GAC were actually kind of following too. It was such a cool thing, but by the end of that, it was already pretty clear to me as hey, this is not going to be sustainable. I could feel burnout not creeping in, but it was in the conversation. I was like, okay, this is not going to fly. And so pretty early on, I made an effort to become comfortable with just not scouting. And I guess that's kind of where the heavy defense came in as well, is needing to be able to learn to roll with the punches, but also having some extra levels of flexibility that it's okay if you drop some battles and you know what the call and response is for, okay, well, shit, I need to clean this up, but I know what my answer to that is already. That, for me, is why defense has been so fun for so long, is because you really... Not to say the defense playstyles don't benefit from prep. If anything, in some ways, they benefit more. But as long as the GAC gets muddy, you don't really need to scout as much. At that point, it's more about people's ability to roll with the punches rather than to precisely plan and prepare leading into things. Mostly what I do nowadays is I mostly just cook on defense. And then at the end of a week, I'll look at the defensive results and be like, okay, did any teams suck, or did any teams get beaten by a team where I'm like, whoa, that's not a trade that I'm looking to make? Can I tech against that? Is kind of more the process that I try to stick with. I don't tend to plan for offense, and I'm pretty sure that's going to burn me horribly this season, because shit like Gungans and SLK.
Unforgiving. Yes.
We will see how that goes, but if anything, I think that can make for some decently entertaining television, so it's kind of a win-win. I mean, it's a lose-win, but it's a win-win.
It's an intel win. That's how I choose to interpret my losses. Yeah. That's what I call. All right.
I have staked a lot of my faith that set 15 will create some explosive defensive results that will allow me to not know what the fuck I'm doing.
Good. Yeah, we have some related questions that'll come up later that'll touch on that. And how organic that is. We'll transition out of the main interview here, Fatal. There's some other questions that folks have had for you, knowing that you were going to be the special guest, but we'll get to those later in the show. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on for us going into this week 1 of 5 versus 5. The first subheading here is what preparations we've been doing. Now, we don't have to go round robin here. I mean, and I personally don't have a lot to say. I've just been tweaking some mods, making sure I have, at least 20 plus level 9 set 15 crons so that I'm covered for when set 14 expires at the end of this season. Not any really special reworks for anybody going out of 3s into 5s. What about you guys?
Marking all of these stupid tunes for the raid so that I can R-raid them if necessary.
Well, you
Sir,
mean
I
R9
believe you mean
them.
R9. You mean R9, you cheap bastard.
That's right. They added a new tier that requires Relic 9. Welcome to hell.
No, you're gonna go to R first. You have to get to R8 first.
That is technically right, yes. You didn't have your ETH conf
R9
at
is still
Relegate
so
this whole
expensive.
time?
Eat shit.
It may be sad, but it may be true. So while you're talking shit and telling them to eat shit, it may actually be a thing we don't know yet.
No, seriously, like Destination, not really mods or relics, otherwise.
Okay, so nothing special. Yeah, you were breaking up a little bit, just so you know. But yeah, okay, I hear you. How about the rest of you guys? Any specific modding tricks or additional relics to shore up something that you're anticipating for here going into week 1?
For me,
Mine's-
it's kind of you go first.
No. Hey, I'm more interested in yours. Trust me. Yours is going to be more off the wall, so I'm definitely interested in what you have to say.
For me, it's been a lot of trying to make up for. I mean, I didn't miss those the last couple of 5v5 seasons, but I definitely wasn't paying attention, and so this is the first one that I'm kind of trying to, set 15's got me curious. I'm putting a little bit of faith in that, like, time in will equal some fun or interest or whatever. And so there was definitely an aspect of like, okay, I want to theory craft, but also I'm kind of more so just like doing recent history research. And I don't know that I have answers to those questions just yet. It seems like there's a whole lot of back and forth of like different forks of, right? Lord Vader of like, okay, how sacred is Seer on defense? How meaningful is something like Lord Vader Malicos on defense to try to make an extra entry that kind of throws some shade at Bo-Katan Mandalore? I mean, okay, I will say, Malicos does throw shade at Bo-Katan Mandalore. At least as long as Maul puts blasts on her, she will fall down and permanently expire to remind people that the team doesn't actually have a tank unless you break factional limitations. Stuff like that, stuff like Rey and this whole... I mean, Bane's gonna be Bane, but I just need Rey to be Baned. That's fine. But the whole Starkiller versus everyone seems to be holding Malicos, so that's... Is there a way to... If Seer is sacred, then Cal is sacred to Seer. So then you're on Barriss, and then you're asking questions of like, well, how interesting is Zori Holdo? And then from there, it's like, well, can I make Rey do anything on defense to try to fuck with Malicos and Starkiller to try to force Bane? And I don't know that I have answers to those questions. I'm kind of trying. I haven't actually like finalized the comp, but it definitely seems like GSC Insight had some data towards like JTR to try to cleanse off any offense down shenanigans or, push off Starkiller a little bit. Overinvested Barriss. I just took her to Relegate. I was kind of crushed that she wasn't in the raid list, but shit happens. And then from there, it's going to be a question of like L3 or I'm not sure who. But yeah, I don't know. Someone asked me today, is like, are you back in the kitchen cooking? And I'm like, I don't know that I can promise that I'm cooking yet. I think that'll be determined after I see the results. But I'm trying to turn the pilot light on because, yeah, I don't know.
So the theory craft you're working out is really an anti-Bane Rey, which so far, as far as we've seen, nothing's really standing up. So that's the goal here, though. That's an interesting project.
Oh no! I'm accepting Bane. I'm handshaking Bane. I'm mostly just trying to theory craft against the other predators with like Seer or Starkiller.
I see.
Nah, that dude's gonna win. CG directly written his kit. He's going to win. Don't try.
Yeah, and I don't know that that's going to change as Kron goes away.
The last time Starkiller had bulk, he kind of dunked Rey. So I think that's kind of where Fatal's going to as well.
Yeah. But I mean, so that's really all I'm trying to do here is, okay, which battles can I win? Which battles can I not win? And then what space does that create if I like just give them what they want? It's like, hey, here's my Rey, you can Bane it. Hey, here's my Lord Vader, you can Bo-Katan Mandalore it. Like, does that create any room for, like, you know, JMK kind of looks Bo-Katanable, but if they're thinking, hey, there's the Lord Vader, I would be stupid not to use Bo-Katan on that. That's not nothing. I don't know. Lord Vader gets a little bit of value for there.
That's fair. I can see that. Sasha, TJ, how about you guys? Any specific prep you're putting in here? Start of the season.
Go ahead, TJ. I'll follow you. Mine's very light.
I'm probably gonna be in the same boat. I'm not gonna be as deep as where Fatal is at, because that dude goes to the kitchen. That dude goes in to like really cook some shit up. I'm a lazy chef. My shit's in the microwave. So I know we're gonna talk about him later, but it's the pieces for Queen Amidala's team, and then the dial in of facing the true power that is the Gungan culture. So I know there's talk of like what that's going to be like, but that's kind of where we're shaking it up, right? Because we all know what the Queen team is going to have the 3, but it's who's the 4th and the 5th. We know what Datacron's going to be on there, but how's it going to play? So it's like I'm playing with a couple of ideas of what I think and what I've seen. Again, as I keep saying it, and I'll keep calling it out, you know, thank your content creator for a reason. So I've got to see some things where it's like, that's an interesting concept, and how is this going to play out? I know we're going to dig on it more, but that's really been my prep is how am I going to throw something that's really going to cause a possible problem, because we haven't really faced the true power of what the Gungans are going to do. We haven't really faced the true power of what Queen Amidala is going to do yet. We just don't know.
Fair.
So I really don't have much. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Fatal.
No, I was just gonna say, I feel like Amidala is gonna be a bit of an opportunist. She's gonna be very beatable on her own, but if other people can make a mess, then she will be very happy, I think.
Fair. How about it, Sasha? What you got?
You know, I really don't have much. I mean, to be honest, I kind of for my own like health and sustainability reasons, more or less took the last week off. And then as I look ahead to the next week in GAC, I'm like adrift in a sea of Erodiums. I have 6 Erodium accounts in my GAC bracket. So like it's going to be, I will end up with, I think, at best 3 and possibly, I believe 3 GAC matches over a month-long period here. So that's leaving me in. Yeah, it's leaving me in a bit of a wait and see, and I do think it's going to be an interesting week. I do think for all the sort of possibilities, that sort of like preliminary considerations that Fatal threw out and TJ was talking about, I think this will be an interesting week. As we often do on this show, I want to mention, watch your content creators, whoever's out there. Like, I mean, you've got great examples on this show, with Fatal and Tasniks. I'm going to be very curious to see. How what you have cooked, actually turns out, and just to see what the meta's like, and then at a rate of 1 match per week, get to experience it personally. I do think, like, and before completely move off that, because you guys can hear my bitchiness about not having matchups. How cool would it be if they were to fix this Erodium issue, like the issue with so many accounts that don't belong in the leaderboard
CG,
out there?
Fix your damn game.
But if they just did it by resetting everything and going back to that, I have just such fond memories of that initial like tournament-like feel where everybody was just re-engaged, or at that point really engaged, maybe for the first time in GAC. I would love that. Like, I have no doubt for all of us on this, and I'm sure anybody that's taken the time to listen to us, that would be like super inspiring. So I'd love to see that happen.
Wasn't that like,
and I won't get slapped by people who have everything for like a month either, because I have everything now too. Yeah, reset it.
What were you saying, Fatal?
When they first did it, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, wasn't that the time where like Starkiller and Omicrons were new as well? It was just like this insane coalescence of like, hey, it's the first competitive structure, and also here's all these crazy new like, hey, Mara Jade's in the mix. Well, like, what the fuck are you? So like, okay, well, what if I do Mara separate, and that I do Darth Vader with Starkiller? Like, oh man, what a cool time for the game! And like,
it was so great. I remember like during that time in those tournaments, or like it felt like a tournament, that sort of early stage where if there wasn't an active streamer going on at that point, you could go into, I don't know, some random Discord server and somebody would be streaming in front of like, 15 to 20 random friends who were just interested in watching GAC. Like it was, it felt so alive and fun at that point. But all right.
No, fair. As an extension here, I don't know if you guys put a lot of real change going out of 3 versus 3 into 5 versus 5 into your Datacrons, but did you learn any lessons coming out of 3s that made you say, oh man, I've got to build up 1 or 2 just so I have X for starting out week 1 of 5s? In short, the answer for me was just to re-roll some of the garbage stats on some of the level 9s that I found myself using and needing to use last 3 season, and just resenting that they just had a mixed bag of just garbo stats.
Season.
Ooh. Daggers down in the mines. Yep. All right, well, make sure that you keep the light on that hard hat, and when you get out of the tunnel, come on back and talk to us.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's still not there. Still not there. How about the rest of you guys? We'll give Dagger a moment to come back to us.
I think it was fair. Mine, I'll take your point to the stats, but we walk into a wealth of Datacrons now, right? Anybody who's at the top had a good amount. We went wide when it was looking at to make sure we had. So it's just making sure where I'm going to need it, like a possible, damage reduction, or having the same thing towards like ability block, or just something else that's going to be in my back pocket just in case I'm going to need it for whatever we're doing.
No other key crons for the rest of you guys? Anything else that you made a special effort to make sure you got?
The only thing that I'd say I added, and maybe it was at the end of last week, that I focused on was getting a light side and a dark side crit avoidance focus cron. I just think there's such an abundance of like offensive stats and like just hard hitting crons out of this, but to just have a couple options, one on each side, to just sort of throw in here or there to mix it up for survivability, maybe on defense, but maybe on offense too. So I did that and made sure I got,
What number? So I'm going to probe like we would probe here, right? What number, when you say crit avoidance, would you call it crit avoidance?
I shot for like 75%.
Oh, so you went full. Okay, so that's awesome. That's a good call out.
Yeah, like so pretty darn high. Obviously, a bulk of whichever side it was on level 3, but yeah, I figured I'd do 75%.
It's a big goal. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I ran into in 3v3, and I don't know if it'll be true in 5s, is because we have bulk, the offense stats on those crons matter so much more. So I got punished a few times during 3v3 for having like some crit avoidance rolls on some of my crons, and my opponent's champ dude's just doing way more damage than mine.
Right.
Very fair. All right. Let's see here. Next one on the list. Gungans. So are we expecting them still to be generally on defense? And if not, what kind of comes to mind on what you want to think about how you're looking to apply them? And also, we found in the last 3 versus 3 that the Jar Jar level 9, proved to be very powerful, more powerful than Nas. Are we still thinking that's the case?
Nas is just kind of untenable against their main predator, right? That blind effect truly just makes that level 9 not exist. Like it's unfortunate, but it's just the kind of the lay of the land. I'm still kind of curious about Tarpol's Cron, but I don't know. Jar Jar Binks 9 causes enough chaos that I think, for the most part, that's kind of what I'm looking for the faction to do. But I'm not that curious enough for Tarpals yet.
But your posture's still thinking on defense.
I'm gonna run every decent looking team on defense until my cold dead hands
Very
get
fair.
placed in.
Yeah, are you familiar with Fatal?
Yeah, well, yeah. It's one of those things.
I'm still posting Seer on defense. Like,
this is one of those questions that people ask, and it's like this is
I
kind
know,
of this is kind of one of those things that people should work their, as they get more experience, build up that intuition that it's like, yeah, the more difficult teams, GL or not, there's a real incentive to put those on defense to jam people up. So I'm right there with you guys.
yeah,
No defiance for me.
Until people prove they can consistently Padme, and it's going to be on defense.
Something about Padme consistently.
He's
Kenny?
he's saying look, Padme can be on defense.
People can consistently. Yeah, if people can consistently.
I know what he's trying to say, because I think the one thing that we know is going to be true, right? Padme is going to be with JMK. It's just a factor that if you're going to have it there, the Padme on the team is one of the best things you can do, and how you're going to, right? Because threes with JMK, I know people were trying to get kind of shifty and doing, was it Padme and Kat and a threes team, but now you've got the full Monty. And how's this going to work out for you in fives, right? Mm-hmm. It's not so cut and dry on what you're going to be able to do, and how this is going to work out, and the damage is going to go there. So it's I think that's where I think we can pretty much expect all of us are going to be dealing with that, where it's like, is your cat faster? Is my cat faster? How's this going to look? Well, we're not going to mirror, so here's what we're going to do here. And having that, is that a factor that's in the back wall? Is it in the front wall? Is it in the fatal wall? We know it's going to be there, and it's your problem now. Go and deal with it. And just those things like that. So it's like, it's true with Dagger's call out, and of course, screw Sasha for bringing it up for everybody, that Padme would be the go-to counter for the Gungans. So without that being there, that does open the door to what else is going to work when you have the full Gungan team and not just three.
Mm-hmm. Very fair.
I will say, I do think the Gungan design, like, even if you're a efficiency player, I think it kind of behooves you to post the Gungans right now, just because of how volatile they can be.
Mm-hmm. As you said, with that Jar Jar level 9, it's particularly heinous, and the way that Jar Jar and Phalanx were pinging off each other.
Yeah, man. That was
in threes.
So nasty.
Now you're having the other two attackers there to intercede as well. Like, yeah, it sounds like a mess. About the JMK Padme thing. So do you guys think that those are kind of tied at the hip here, at least for this first week? You think that that's like, obviously there's some type of proposal for having a split. Maybe you're running Padme with a value crew of galactic republics and seeing what you might try with that. You think that there's more value in creating like the power team with Padme there?
From my perspective, if I was going to set JMK on defense, I would almost certainly do it with Padme as part of the comp. I just think I wouldn't want to marginalize my own JMK. On offense, I don't know. I think it would depend, and I actually really like that optionality because, as we mentioned, like a Padme-led squad with that level 9 can punch pretty hot. Like, I mean, I think there are a lot of like kind of attractive targets for it, and the JMK that doesn't have Padme is still like a real weapon. But on defense, I would only do it if they're combined.
I think it calls out, and I think it's a pretty big factor, right? That if you do decide to pull it up, you can split them pretty well. Having that disruption and being able to move around taunt is just such a huge advantage, and JMK is going to be a monster with that, right? And these stats are really working to what he wants to do anyway. So that being able to do is a great thing.
I think for week 1, I think people are kind of just going to be playing the recent hits, and at least my hope is a lot of people are just going to be running the monster teams and letting them clash and just make a big mess. I am slightly concerned that, like, as scary as teams like SLKR are on defense, it sure is easy to just blow a team up on offense with them. I would not be shocked to know that people are still just like posting. What was the template for the last like couple of seasons? It was just like Ray LV plus cheese teams or whatever. Like, I'm not going to be shocked if I see that again, just because of how lethal even just like a SLK 2-man can be. But there's enough damage being caused right now that kind of feels like classic Galaxy heroes that I do hope that people are going to gravitate towards the shiny, dangerous toys. I'm like, oh man, this team is insane. I got to post that.
Yeah, some stupid high number, yeah.
As long as they post him against Tass and Fatal, then we get to see him in action. That's
Right.
that's my ask.
Just watch me mash my face into the meat grinder.
I gotta say,
No, go
Say
ahead, guys.
Fatal did Zori, so don't forget Fatal did Zori. So I would be interested to see, and I think it's a good call out that what does Padme get to kill that we're not aware of, right? That Padme level 9 when
Yeah.
not with JFK is still a huge level 9, and being able to turn everything to 1 damage is just crazy bananas.
It's fair. Well, how about related to Padme going forward into Queen Amidala? So I don't think we need to spend a lot of time talking about if we'd use it on attack. I think we're all of the mind that the new teams, the meta teams, are much more interesting to learn about what your opponents are going to try to use against it. So we'll just go ahead and assume that you guys are thinking to mostly have it on defense. You're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong about that. But, we'd have the core 3 of Queen, Master Qui-Gon, and Padawan Obi-Wan. I know a lot of us have been talking about Xeris as probably a fairly reliable 4th, but I've heard some interesting options for who your last 2 could be. I wonder what you guys are thinking. Who are you guys thinking maybe to set with them here in week 1? The core, outside of the core 3.
I'm happy to go through my thinking. It's not like super deep or revolved on it, but like the couple of the ones that were high on my list. One, a little surprisingly, was like considering GMY as a possibility. Because anytime under that Queen Amidala lead, as I recall with Kit, as long as you meet the requirements, no Galactic Legend and all GR comp, then anytime special is used, that you get an assist. And if you call Master Qui-Gon, then you're also calling Padawan Obi-Wan, and frankly, just the out of turn attacks, unless you've got like a Padme DC on the other side, are brutal with that Padawan Obi-Wan DC. And GMY, while got his own vulnerabilities, like he's just doing a ton of specials. So there's a lot of out of turn attack. And the other 5th, sort of assuming Xeris is a 4th, because I really like her kit for survivability, and like frankly, they just eat. They would welcome crits on multiple levels with her in there. The other 5th I was thinking about was maybe Shock. Shock does a good amount of specials, including one that does call an assist, and out of turn attacks are just so appealing. So those were ones that I was just sort of, without a ton of thought, considering. How about you guys?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head for me. I was thinking, I've heard Xeris and then Grandmaster Xeris and Shock. I've heard Shock and Grandmaster if you didn't have Xeris. That's kind of the things I've been hearing. I've heard a couple people muse about whether or not they wanted to throw GK in there just for I don't know what reasons. I personally don't see a lot of appeal. Maybe the Dispel, maybe the Retribution, maybe the crit immunity. It's just not a lot that I see them needing that he's doing. And also it opens up a vulnerability, right? Like they could just focus him if he's taunting as opposed to just being able to focus on decoy.
You kind of want the crits. Like that's where crit immunity, like appealing from a survivability standpoint, but it keeps you from ramping. So that's why I was a little less inclined on GK. Mace would be cool, but Mace has got like at least as I look at my board, in pretty high demand.
I'm going to call one for the people who want to listen, and it's an idea that there's a team we're not touching on, and one of the things I'm thinking about, and he's normally pretty fast. Bad Batch Echo. I don't think anybody's calling out. Now, what if you stop the team, right? Think about the turn order of what you have for the team. Normally, for us at the top, Bad Batch Echo runs super fast. He's going to pull all your buffs back, and he's going to stop you and you're dead in your tracks. Now you're going to be dazed. And you have this team just going bananas on you. Well, what if you can't go? How does that work out? What does that look like? Right? What if you're putting in some of the Bad Batch teams? So there's other pieces. The one thing I like about this team is that there's a wide area that we can go, and there's things we can add in that people aren't thinking about. I think Zaris is a pretty good one. I think that stands pretty strong. I think Shakti, because she's such a good utilitarian character, she does a lot. GMY, obviously another one, because that's Disruption, and he's just a monster there. But there's all these other teams too, where it's like, man, there are some good Galactic Republic characters that are just kind of sitting there that have utility. So Bad Batch Echo is the one that I'm thinking about. If it goes on the team, how that looks.
Okay.
I want to talk about the Manhattan Project.
Oh,
Let's hear it.
Okay, this is so this is
See why
the
the smoke
sleeves
is
rolled
coming out
up,
of the
and you got the big wooden spoon, and this is you stirring the secret sauce.
Yeah. Cam belongs on the team, I think. And in kind of my final pass for this season, I'm going to be shipping C-3PO alongside him.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I haven't really gone to the team's matchup spread. Like, I know Inquisitors will probably prey on them. When Master Qui-Gon first dropped, something very interesting happened. So I was testing Gas, as I think Gas is kind of a natural main predator for this team right now. You break down Palcron. Hey, Pal ignores protection. Gas says, no, the fuck you don't.
I don't believe you.
The Amidala team makes buffs like crazy, so Gas absolutely feasts on that and turns that into offense. Solid nuke tools and lasting sustain, and just it was a very favorable matchup. It was just a clean, don't even bother. But the thing that I did notice is, so when Master Qui-Gon first released, I built him for speed, and I built him for health, and I built him for 0 damage. And this dude was doing the most damage to Gas's protection out of anybody. And I said, well, what's this dude's crit chance as a special damage dealer? And it was like 19%. And I said, okay, well, let's try building him for damage. It was like notably better, but then I talked about earlier, I did the roster scroll. And Yeti Mundi kind of refreshed my memory of an ancient bygone era when he first released, where I would run Cam in JKR GMY solely for the assists, the zealous ambition effect, where supports convert their health into offense.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make sure I'm clear on this, Fatal, because that's the Jedi Council one, is it? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Because so it says it requires all GR Jedi, but it doesn't actually. Is that right?
It's because it's a separate paragraph. The clause does not apply.
Oh my god. Okay. All right.
So, okay, take
Good.
that one sentence. Take that one sentence. Galactic Republic Jedi allies with a support role have an additional offense equal to 10% of their max health.
Yeah.
Now go reread Amidala, go reread Master Qui-Gon, and realize that they don't really have offense scale. I mean, they have like a little bit, right? You get like health over time and protection over time ramps you a little bit. But you know what they do have? Master Qui-Gon Omicron, plus 100% health. Queen's Protection, it's like 60% health. Master Qui-Gon's dice roll stacks you up to 100% health. There are so many stacking health effects. And this is why I call it the Manhattan Project, is this guy deals more damage than Palcron without, he has the Bulkron providing some health, but he is the damage dealer of the team. This character is so deceptively designed. I really, in my heart of heart, I have to hope that the designer intended this, because it the moment that I started looking at the team through this kit, I kind of fell in love with this team. There is so much happening under the hood here that really just kind of makes this team feel incredible. Less so for it's not like a Bad Batch game plan of I use Echo AoE and then I use Tech AoE and then I combo out my abilities, but just the under the radar combination of synergetic effects really comes together into some crazy ways where I haven't had my Master Qui-Gon do 1 million damage on a basic yet, but he's done 800,000.
Damn.
Just to throw out a number.
So so who's your fifth then, going alongside Cam?
So kind of applying problem solving is, if Cam is an interesting fourth, then I was looking at a few options, but I think C3PO really kind of shines out right now as an example.
Okay.
And partly what it started off as is if you look at the passive effects of translation, what does it do? When you have one stack of translation, 30% health.
30%, yeah.
When you have two stacks, 15% crit chance, which we already established. The motherfucker has no crit chance. You are very much like having to mod down this direction.
Yeah.
But what causes the scaling to truly go crazy is crit damage as a stat, right? So you have your offense pool, and then you have your health pool converted to offense. But crit damage applies to both offense sources as a whole. So I've got him on crit damage set, crit damage triangle. And then you look at stuff like, well, why does Queen Amidala have crit damage up on her for special to give it to everyone? Because normally Pow gives it to himself. So it's like, well, he doesn't really need it. It's not for him. That's just for Master Qui-Gon. I'm not too super tinfoil on it, but like again, if you look at the team through this lens, I actually think CG intended this. I think this was just like quietly sitting here. There is too much stuff that lines up in a way that makes my jaw drop and my eyes bulge out and go humana that it's like there's no way.
Wow, that is
Right?
really cool. That's going to be interesting to see. People had Cam just, assigned off to Qui-Gon for so long. That's great.
It gets dumber here. So, did you all know that C-3PO is just Barriss Offee? So, here's the combination. So, Padawan Obi-Wan, when someone gets crit, he makes defense up, right?
Mm-hmm.
C-3PO gives you 15% protection up whenever you gain a buff. C-3PO is Barriss Offee, but also has a mass assist, but also scales your damage. It also has a fuck ton of passive synergy effects for GR and all those other factions.
And reduces cooldowns and makes yes. Just even the
That's
thought
a
about
mess.
that, just another mass assist. The grossest of this combination.
So would this call for a remod? Like, you've been having, I think we've all been having our C-3PO modded to be kind of later in the sequence in our CLS Rebels team. And if you were thinking to have this as a mainstay figure with your Queen Amidala, is that we're talking about going real fast now on C-3PO?
I don't think it's mandatory. If anything, I didn't actually put too much thought into this week's log. I sped him up, but I actually kind of wish I slowed him down now, maybe, just to let him go after everyone else has translation. But yeah, I think having him go at the end still kind of makes sense.
Okay. All right. Let me dig into the next question here, because we're going to have to wrap this and move into the Patreon questions before I take up the entire time here. So, answers to Slacker, both Galactic Legend and not. I'll try and keep it brief here to save time, but like for me, JML was only barely not working for me in 3s, so I think I'll have a decent case for that in 5s. Of course, that's one of the more typical counters. Where I got jammed up in 3s, I needed to use Bane, so it'll just be something top of mind about what I'm going to be keeping to deal with Rey if I'm going to flex Bane in that direction. Because, yeah, Bane has just chuck at Rey.
Everyone slow your JMLs down. You'll thank me later. Yeah, if you go before Slacker, you just insta-lose.
Yeah.
There's like nothing you can do.
Fair. All right, so definitely if you're going to do JML, be slower than the Slacker you're going to fight. Any other Galactic Legend counters you guys are thinking to save for that, or something more off-meta you're willing to try?
It's JML for me, is what I'm going to be trying again.
Depending on how absurd the Kron is, in Arena I've gotten JKR, JKL armor to work a little bit, or at least kill all the sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you wanted to go so you wanted to go super heavy and then just, have a couple planned 2 shots along the way? Ooh, you're faded. You trailed off there.
Fewest answers, I think. Yeah, I think Slacker has the fewest actual answers. So I think if you're gonna plan to two-shot something, that's probably high on your list.
That's fair. That is fair. And yes, I do think he has very few clean solutions, for sure. How about the resties?
I think
nothing wasn't already touched on. Sorry, go for it, Fiddle.
I'm still very much curious about JML against Gungans, and if that plays out, then I don't really have an answer for what will replace it, but that will create a vacuum that I'll have to answer for.
Okay. Let's talk about the last question here. Any other teams you're really super excited about going into this week 1? I mean, obviously there's the top meta factions that we've already covered, but is anybody else something that you're really looking forward to either trying on offense or setting as a defense that's not one of the main teams we've discussed?
Zori versus Queen Amidala. Maybe even versus Gungans.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That's that's interesting. Yeah, I could really see the Queen Amidala being an interesting try. Yeah. The Gungans sound challenging. Just for getting like
I don't think well, Fatal will correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the team has any reactive TM.
I haven't looked at it through that lens yet, but I don't think of anything off the top that would actually matter, yeah. I mean, she takes a bonus turn with decoy dice, but that's just not gonna do much to you. I guess the biggest thing you would maybe be scared about is like a POW counterattack, but like Zori's in stealth and you've got the can't die passive anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, unless there's a clause I'm forgetting about that passes the smell test.
Good thought.
I guess she applies doubt when the decoy dies, right? But that's dispellable, I believe. It's unresistible, but it's dispellable. So like the amount of actual impact is non-real. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
That's a good one, Dagger. How about the rest of you guys? Yeah, I'm pretty excited with just what we've already been discussing. I want to see if my defense modded Treya would perform well on defense this season. That's kind of the only other thing I'm interested in because I haven't run her in defense sets until now. Historically, she's just been rocking offense, but a couple of these Treya matchups in the last couple of seasons have resulted in her just getting bopped out, and that's what forced my hand. And we'll see how that goes. All right.
Phoenix for me has been like probably one of my best performing defense teams in the last year, but the last few Datacron sets have created like inhospitable environments for them, so I don't know if I'm going to post them yet, but that's kind of one of the big questions hanging over this season for me is now that teams like Gideon have been printed and aren't necessarily on defense, like do they still have a space to exist? Because Tuscans I solved for, but I don't know if I can solve for everything that now threatens them.
Right.
It was fun while it lasted, though.
Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, I missed using it. It's such a fun little gimmick when you can, but it hasn't felt very usable in the last couple of seasons. And
when
plus,
you drop full tenacity modding, you collect 20 banners for free one day, auto Tuscan, and then realize, hey, why does my damage over time not appear?
Yeah, I remember Sasha. Was it me you caught out with that, or was it
TJ.
someone else?
Oh, the nightmare that is me trying to take my Tuscans because fuck is Sasha with his tenacity.
Yeah, I didn't think it was me, but I remember seeing it. I remember having sympathy pains at the very least watching it. So yeah,
such a small change that made such a big impact.
It's a quite an investment though. It's not a
right.
It is a small change in the grand scheme of things, but it is an undertaking to pull that off.
Yeah, you want to hit ideally like 150 north.
I think the line if you want to contest
warrior.
I think the line that I ran was like 186 tenacity on all 5 Phoenix characters to make it airtight.
Jeez.
Yeah, good lord.
That's a strong commitment.
That's a very deep investment.
All right, guys, let's turn to the final section, Patreon questions. Yeah, so folks were geeked when, I always let the patrons know ahead of the general public who the special guest is, so they get first crack. A couple questions straight up for you, Fatal. From the mind that brought us the Night Sister counter to Jabba, and more recently, the Zori counter to Rey, what's the next off-meta counter you're considering working on?
I don't have a good answer to that. It's kind of like, I wish I could say a lot of this stuff was premeditated, but it really just kind of, a lot of this stuff comes together as like a spark within like 24 hours of me even realizing the possibility of it existing. I don't know what the answer to that's going to be. It's, I mean, there's going to be stuff like, I think enough people are aware that like, okay, yeah, Maul blows up fucking Leia or whatever. That's not really crazy or special or interesting. I don't know. Amidala could probably do it, but I think would people really be surprised if Amidala could do it? I feel like she's of a certain power level that like, yeah, she's in that ballpark arena. Like if someone said that she's dropping bodies, like I don't think that's really gonna blow people away. I don't know. Honestly, it might just have to be whatever next interesting team comes out, or
that starts to jam
whatever next
you
GL
up.
comes out. Yeah, I mean that was kind of the thing, right? Is we haven't really had any major new defensive big bads recently to need to solve for. Like Leia has some clear foundational exploitable weaknesses, so I'm kind of looking the next few Conquest releases. I mean, maybe Luthen would be my heart answer, just because I hope he does something cool. But I'm hoping the next GL makes a defensive splash beyond a Datacron season that kind of, puts them up in a way where we are called to answer, right?
Yeah, swings the pendulum a bit more towards scrappy fights and less efficiency. I'm there for that. I'm all about that. Next question here for you, Fatal. This is from one of my patrons here. I used your mod videos to take the plunge into the world of competitive mods and how to roll them efficiently. As that was 3 to 4 years ago at this point, is there anything you would say is different now? Maybe stats that weren't useful back then, but are now, for example.
In my heart of hearts, I actually do want to update that video, but shockingly, for the most part, I don't actually think I would really change much. If anything, I think the methodology has aged extremely, extremely well with recent mod additions. In terms of stuff that I would mention now that I haven't before, I think I would really just double down and hammer home, because I'm pushing this initiative for myself currently as well, is taking characters that are on primaries like offense primaries and saying, okay, you really don't need to be an offensive primary, especially if you're on defense. Focusing on bulk primaries with high offense secondaries, sprinkling stuff like percent defense, so that you can create these sort of unexpected stat swings where, I mean, my Padawan Obi-Wan, I still maintained roughly the same offense target, but I was able to double his effective bulk on hot utils by sprinkling in armor and bulk primaries, for example, right? Is like, I think the ultimate name of the game of mods and high-level stat modding is, I mean, I think it is just an incredibly good investment. I really, really, really mean this when I say that so much of CG's raid and just PvE design lately, it's been a lot of mod puzzles, and B, you can brute force those mod puzzles with good stat mods. And B, if you can just, I mean, how much do people dislike when Datacron seasons have crazy amounts of bulk in them, right? Now, if you can just have a certain quality of mod where you can just surprise somebody with, hey, this character has 100% extra defense for no fucking reason because these secondaries are damn good. I mean, I can't say for sure that that's going to swing a ton of matchups, but that is where I'm currently exploring. Is like,
No, I think
yeah,
you're
man.
onto something there because the offense these days is so explosive, and it has been for months, right? Like being able to forestall a character, like so many of our counters assume that the priority targets, the non-tank targets, keel over after the first special or two on your team,
Right.
and being able to forestall that even a turn could be lethal.
Yes.
Well, I see that. There's wisdom. There's gold in them there hills. Okay, well, the rest of the questions here for the entire panel, so chirp in, guys. Is the off meta dead? It feels like most off meta counters have a really poor win rate, and it's not worth pursuing this play style. So you know, I know we'll have diverse opinions on this. For
Depends
me,
on
my loyalty is
your
to what's going to
meta.
work. So I'm still going to see what I think my opponent's most likely to do, and if that requires me to lean more into off meta counters. If the win rate looks respectable, like something like, I don't know, 85%, it's something I might go with because that means if I'm planning for a condition where it might fail, I'll plan to set extra heavy and actually go for that two shot. It's been a while since I felt like I had to do that, a long while, but that's what it would kind of take for me to plan on doing off meta. How about you guys?
It depends on how you define off meta. If you're talking about non-Omi, non-GL, that meta has been dying for.
Yeah, I think what they mean by off
But
meta is, the idea of punching up. The idea of punching up.
oh, that'll never be dead. That'll never be dead.
Because, like, off meta counters, like, to the top end teams is how I
You just have
interpret that.
you just have to work. Yeah,
I reject the notion that win rates are low.
Sorry?
Sorry, I was just bringing up. I reject the notion that win rates are low. I mean, win rates fundamentally don't really matter. Win rates are a reflection of the community's ability to execute rather than like
The
fully
viability
representing
of the
matchup
counter,
dynamics
yeah.
instead. Yes. Right, like Night Sisters versus Jabba has like less than 20% win rate because A, people are addicted to zombie, but then B, right, like the all crit damage everything on everyone, including Daka. That's just not common knowledge. I haven't made a video on it, so like obviously people aren't gonna know that. But also there's like a slight executional aspect of it as well. So I know y'all jokingly mentioned it as well, like a fatal only counter, but like I do just want to hammer home that like there were a couple of people who reached out to me after the fact and wanted to learn, and I coached them on stuff like Traya versus Lord Vader. And the funny thing was, the meta evolved to the point where I couldn't use Traya against Lord Vader actually like fairly quickly. After the fact, they were still using that shit for years because in whatever Kyber 3 or whatever GAC, things don't move the way that they move at our level. And so like a lot of this really is just about setup and execution. And so even though something is low win rate, it's really just a question of, is it actually a playable matchup? Or is it a question of, is it actually just nobody knows what they're doing, but the matchup is fine? That's my opinion anyway.
Completely fair. Anybody else want to chirp in on that? Off meta comments?
I think if you're gonna,
he said it way better than I did. That's kind of where I was headed too. If you have the setup, the up does not.
Off meta isn't dead. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, so I totally agree. And the one aspect that I'll add that I think is an unfavorable trend for off meta, like it's just in terms of its like prevalence, is just over time the board has not increased in size. Our rosters and specifically like our GLs have, and as a result, sort of the efficiency or cheese meta has gotten more common. It's gotten easier to execute. And I agree with Fatal that like an informed off meta counter does not have to have any kind of like reduced win rate. but you find people less willing to, one, sort of like climb the learning curve and take whatever bumps and bruises come with sort of it takes to get to being in an informed state, and then them feeling, right or wrong, that it's going to put them at a disadvantage. It doesn't necessarily, but there's that sense that you kind of have to go through that journey of learning with it. And so I think people are doing it less because of that. I think that's one of like a number of like overall, I love this game and I feel like it's in a pretty good state, but the failure to change GAC's board and the map and everything, just sort of the size of it, has had some unhealthy sort of side effects.
Very good. Very good. Well, guys, that about wraps up the questions. Some of the other questions that the patrons asked were already answered here in the course of the show. So, just want to go ahead and thank our special guest, Fatal, for being with us. I think you are the first content creator guest that we've had. So I do want to give you the opportunity. Plug your stuff. Let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, that's twitch.tv/playbooktv, youtube.com/theplaybook, which to this day I still have no idea how that was freely available and accessible. Yeah, hopefully we'll have some videos out there sooner than later. If not, feel free to yell at me.
The appetite's out there, man. I mean, you're hearing it from us. You hear it in your DMs, I'm sure, like you were saying. So people are waiting, chomping at the bit.
Yep, the appetite's here as well.
It's all about that ADHD medication. All right, so if you're in Fatal's community, find out the poor sons of bitches that are responsible for this situation and blow up their customer service line. Make this right.
Do that, but actually, I know some people have been like stripped from social media for saying that. But
hey, it's you want to deliver to the people. You're saying you do. It's just, hey, we have to clear this gate. They'll help. The hunger's there. All right, guys. That about wraps it up here. I'm gonna go ahead and start doing the outro. If you're wanting to catch me live this season, I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/Tassinix. I see here in the comments, Dagger feels bad about his audio situation with the reception, but it's part of the charm, man. Don't worry about it. But if you want to find me, I'm on twitch.tv/Tassinix. That's where I stream. Of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see I'm on Tassinix Gaming is my channel. And of course, Plotting and Scheming itself is also on SoundCloud, YouTube, podcasts, wherever else Spotify gets shared out to. So find it there as well. I've also recently started uploading there in the video format. Future episodes may have more than just me on camera, so you never know what might happen. That said, let's see. In addition to Plotting and Scheming on Tassinix Gaming, some other Swugga-related content you might be interested in. I have Datacron set videos, kind of general discussions about what are the highlights, what are the big things to go for. I make those with Aesop Rock, one of the top players in the game, so you'll want to check out the video here on set 15, which we're still farming here in Conquest. And, of course, I did start a recent mod guide series on YouTube, which is, apparently, very much in demand. Really want to thank the community for being so driven and being into that. Let's go ahead and, of course, plug for my Patreon, because we have so many supporters here. Oh, wife's coming in the room. All right, appreciate you. Thank you.
Also, just while I can, your hat is stupid.
Always a pleasure to get in your commentary, Dagger. It enriches the experience for all of us. So thank you. But yes, let's see. No, we're not going to thank Dagger. We'll thank him at the very end, if at all. So check out patreon.com/Tassinix for any upwardly mobile GAC player. There's probably something there that you'll really love. The $5 tier gets your foot in the door, gets you early access to Plotting and Scheming and most of my other YouTube-related content patrons get it a few days in advance. Usually, for GAC, that means that you've got a little bit better preparation going into your first round than just about anybody else. So for those folks that jump on in, let's go ahead and shout them out. At VIP Access, thank you to Andrew, White Wolf, Sam Vimes, Jobin4527, Stark Strategy Gamer, Raise Malbus, Brock Thudsteel, Renee Bebe, Deadpool Cal 28, Johnny B. Ottawa, JJ's Productions Twitch, Sweens14, and Darth QP PMG. I almost forgot Arj, who just signed up the other day, but I haven't actually got him included in the slide. Didn't forget you there, buddy. All right, stepping up from VIP Access, if you wanted to start taking advantage of the bots to get that improved Intel game. At VIP Access Plus, you get a bundled access to my Patreon and to OmegaBot Patreon. So if you ever see me go over that detailed scouting report at the start of my streams, that is what you get there. You'll be able to pull more than just the last 2 weeks of data to build out a custom report on your opponent. And of course, jumping, before we jump from there, we have to thank Stryker and Esh Sotnikam for taking advantage of that offer. Thank you guys so much. And then jumping to VIP Access Premium is the double bot bundle. So you have the OmegaBot Patreon and Hot Utils Patreon, which is the premier tool for mass loadout management. I know players like TJ, Fatal, like to use Hot Utils to tweak and fine-tune and remod their whole roster in an automated fashion, putting in detailed requirements. That's something I like doing manually in-game, but I'm not going to sit here and downplay the power that can give you. So thank you.
Fatal, just quick shout out to Fatal, the one who taught me how to do it. So,
I think Fatal taught us all how to do it when it was new back in the day.
The one who made it all possible. Not do it manually if you don't want to.
For sure. For sure. It is.
Shadow's just very dismal for me. The person who god of a person that single-handedly holding this game. How much that skill.
Amen. Amen. Amen to that. So yeah, thank you so much to Quig, Ibanez, Sir Boss, Trevor Boy Gaming, and Funky for taking that double bot bundle. And of course, my number one patron at the top of the heap, Nomad's Reaper. No man does it better. Pops into stream from time to time, drops hundreds of subs, thousands of biddies, showers us all with the love. Thank you so much for the extremely generous support over the years. And of course, last but never least, our special thanks to Yoda Force, one of my original supporters back in the day, bought me the mic I'm speaking to you on. He has long since quit the game, but we remember him fondly from the other side. To Mrs. T, my wife, keeping everything managed in the background while I spend an hour here, 2 hours there, 3 hours here on stream, trying to be halfway decent at a phone game. Really appreciate that. And of course, to my co-hosts here, I'm Plotting and Scheming Dagger, TJ and Sasha Isha. It's always herding cats, making it work between the four of us, and sometimes it's also a challenge to get guests in, but Fatal was a pretty smooth customer. Nevertheless, I appreciate you guys setting aside the time from your busy, work and family schedules to make this show work. Couldn't do it without you. Really pleased with what we've come up with. And again, we've been doing this just over a year. I know we called that out last month, but man, it really flew by. So thank you guys for making that possible. All right, coming back over to the main scene. We're all so thrilled
to be clear. To be clear, I don't make time for you. I just bring you guys along in my real life.
That's fair. That's fair. Yes, and you sounding like you're talking to us with your phone strapped to your back as all four of your limbs are engaged with like climbing some type of Indiana Jones ladder up a tunnel. Yeah, I believe you, bud. I believe you. All right. Nevertheless, I know we're all stoked here about going into this first week. Lot to talk about in the week 1 review, so stay tuned for that. And of course, until next time, it's been real, it's been awesome, it's been real awesome. Take care.